talking about mental agility and creating mastery with the virtue of patience. And I know that most of us have said or heard ourselves say or somebody else say, well, patience is a virtue and I don't have it. It is a virtue, which means you're not born with it. It's a quality of character, some people say. So let me read you this little piece here. And there is a handout that you can download and print for yourself of lots of stuff around virtues and mental agility. But Aristotle's Ethics is quoted by Dr. Jim Stevens, and he says, Aristotle says, how human happiness chiefly depends upon a person's character, which is formed by making good choices, and that in human nature, the meaning of the good and the virtues are necessary for happiness. So true mental agility means we know how to run our own mind, and we know how to run our own mind for peace, for happiness, for goodness. And that's why I teach the 12 great virtues. It is the ultimate mental gym or yoga in your mind. So tonight we'll talk about patience. And I started with courage. We all need courage, especially in these times. Last week was tolerance. This week is patience. So there are 12. This is week 3. And I wanted to just show you for a second. I have, let me show you this. This is my YouTube channel. And so you can see that on my YouTube channel, there's an introduction to mental agility, just a 2-minute video. And then I read aloud the courage scroll and each one of the scrolls in sequence so that you can listen to it. It's healthy mind food that you can hear. Of course, you also have the scroll which you can read at any time. And so tonight we've got the patience scroll. And so here's patience, and you can read it by looking at the scroll, or I wanted to make sure, Jack, my husband, is a composer, which means he's oral. He likes to learn by hearing. So I made a slideshow with the courage scroll recorded in his studio by perfectionist Jack, and then put on a slideshow. So you can see the slideshow and hear my voice or one or the other, like a podcast. So I just wanted to let you know that that's another way for you to access the scrolls or the good mind food with the virtues. So mental agility. And we know that we have pretty much an infinite choice to use our minds. We don't ever have to stop learning. Some people are not willing to learn. Some people have a hard time learning in various ways. But we always have that human ability to know more, to learn more, to educate ourselves more in our own way. And so patience is one of the most powerful things I know to give you as a tool. Now, there is a kind of I think about it as a roadmap in our minds. So that roadmap is kind of like those trains of thought or the tapes or the loops that keep playing, or the self-talk that just comes up when you feel bad about yourself or somebody else. I think about those as roads in your mind which have been traveled many, many times. They've been traveled so many times that when you relax, that phrase or that word or that concept pops in and occupies your mind. So when we have the ability to self-observe and to want to learn, we can choose to think that over and over again, or we can choose to say, I don't like that one. That one doesn't work for me. I want something different. So at some point, we can notice it. And I love the way Tara Brach says it. She's one of those respected people, a great thinker, philosopher, and Buddhist, where she says, you know, your thoughts aren't necessarily true, and your thoughts lie to you, like those things where we say we hate ourselves, or we have to get revenge on somebody else, or the world is going to hell in a handbasket, those kinds of things. Well, are they actually accurate? And are they something that we want to dwell on? I think of it as, do I want to spend my mental budget on something like that? It's negative, or it's cheap, or it's just going to be a burden on me. So we can peg them. We can notice the mind thoughts, mind food that we allow in our thinking that may be lies, or just maybe inaccurate. One of the things that I learned a long time ago, and this may have happened to you too, when I first introduced the idea of mental agility, I introduced a story where I want us to find one of those places where it's like, what? Where we did a double take. Because it's a learning moment, and a learning moment that we don't forget. Well, I had a double take. And it was quite disconcerting, as double takes often are. Sometimes they're wonderful, but this particular one, gone back to my hometown, was staying in the lake house with one of my high school girlfriends and her big sister. Very astute people. Well, her big sister buttonholed me about blanket statements. And nobody had ever done anything like that or observed anything like that for me. And it was like, whoa, did I do that? Is that how I'm talking? The way she did it wasn't mean. It was just very intelligent and very clear. I never forgot it. And now, of course, when someone in my counseling sessions begins to use blanket statements, I say, whoa, that's a blanket statement and it's not true. Now, it may be partially true, but a blanket statement, when you make these big sweeping statements about reality or something, usually it's about a piece of reality, but it's not the whole thing. You could say, well, she just hates me. Well, that person isn't just all hatred. That moment that happened may have been pretty negative. She may have said that, but that's not the whole truth. So that's one of those times when you get a what? One of those aha moments. Have you had an aha moment about your patience? About your mental roadmaps in your mind, things that you say that you aren't really aware that you do, and then something comes up to say, whoa. So then I think about those roadmaps in the brain, the ones that we don't like, the ones that don't serve us, the ones that weigh us down or confuse us, as a mental roadmap, and a lot of them are the old way. The old way meaning we learned it when we were just a sponge, and we probably didn't have discernment about whether or not we thought that was true. We just learned it and absorbed it and have been, in good conscience, probably obedient to it. So that gets us boxed in. If we base our decisions, our ideas about how to relate to people, our ideas about how to communicate on those old ways that box us in, then we keep just spinning. Or we keep getting into arguments. Or we keep being frustrated. Or we keep being just stubborn. Whatever it is. You know what I call those parts of the roadmap in our brain? And I have an old poster that I built that I have in my private practice office that I bring out every once in a while. Because those old ruts, those old roads, I call them asphalt with an ASS space, FAULT. People usually remember that. That's a kind of a little double take, a little bit of asphalt, where we're on the asphalt now, and this is not true, or this is not positive, or this is not good mind food. Let's get off the asphalt. And so then we can move off that old rut, that old way of thinking, and take the exit. Now, when we take the exit, of course, the road that we go onto is not going to be so well traveled. It's a new way of thinking. And that's mental yoga. That's working your mind because you decide. So whenever you get on one of those asphalt thoughts, like, what's the matter with me? I'm just stupid. Or I'm never going to be happy in this job because I don't like anybody. Whatever it is. Say, wait a minute, that's not true. I'm not going to think that thought anymore. So let me just get off this asphalt. And what else am I going to think? It helps a whole lot if we've got a plan about where we're going in our mind. And this is one of the things that is so appropriate for the usage of a virtue. So I've given you the scroll to read, the scroll to listen to. So if you get off the asphalt and just begin to read about courage or think about courage and say, oh yeah, that's really me. Or that's how I want to be. And that's how I want to handle myself. Or like today, patience. So instead of getting boxed in and getting ourselves in the ruts of the asphalt, or getting up against a dead-end block because we're impatient, let's take the exit. Let's turn the corner and notice that we can name where we're going, and that makes turning the corner better. So for today, you come up against the roadblock of impatience. So people who are impatient, it's not very pleasant. And when we are impatient, it's not very pleasant on the inside, let alone the outside. So I'm sure you've encountered various times when somebody's a know-it-all, or you catch yourself, but I know the better thing. I'm going to judge that, and I'm better. I know it all. Well, that means maintaining control and saying I'm not mentally flexible. I'm not going to listen. Or when we're unfocused, we're not precise, and we're not paying attention, and we're not patient. When we're impractical, people who are impatient are not practical. People who are idealistic are not patient. People who are controlling are not patient. People who are pleasing are not patient. People who are frustrated or angry are not patient. People who are disapproving are not patient. People who are resistant or unwilling or stubborn or opinionated. So if we come down to the virtue of patience, and that's the only one that you really study with me, you will notice some huge differences inside yourself as well as in how the world responds to you. So I have a handout, and this is the workbook, the study guide that I have that I've created on the 12 Great Virtues. Wanted to let you know that. Also, this is where you go on my website. So the handout from the broadcast, you'll notice, is the Mental Agility Intro. You can get that free, download it and print it. It's 12 pages, so it's quite lengthy. The instructions about the mental agility we're building to learn a virtue, this is the daily retrospection, which is the mental gym of thinking backwards. So thinking backwards from the end of your day to the beginning of your day, holding in your mind whatever virtue you're working on that week. And so then making a little scientific pursuit, just checking yourself. Okay, here we go on the chart, and if we go down here, we're going to see patience right there. And then thinking backwards through your day, think about, okay, was I patient? Where I said, I trust the natural timing of life processes. I trust the timing of my own growth process. Patience is trusting that all things work out with perfect timing. I would love you to debate me on that one. I've been around the block enough times to have proven that to myself over and over, not only in my own life, but with all the hundreds of beautiful stories I've heard from my clients over the decades. So the more I learn about the universe, the more I trust myself and the positive nature of creation. I realize that I am a special and unique person equipped with many abilities that lead me to grow at the perfect rate. And built into my mind are many qualities that move me forward. So then the second paragraph, yet at times I become impatient. Sometimes it seems that difficult situations in my life will never end. Yet I know each situation has a purpose. When I can learn the lesson, the difficulties smooth away. So the difficulties smooth away. Now, the world may not change for you, but you can change how you handle yourself in the world no matter what circumstance you're in, and smooth the way for yourself and for the people around you. If you become patient, you can smooth that you can always control. That form of mental agility is always at hand for you. So there is a kind of an elegant little piece that I use when I teach the virtues. And I love teaching the virtues. People do the most wonderful things. So this is a little self-evaluation. And notice there are 5 little blanks here. So during the week, you check in with yourself. The first day, and then however many days you want to just check. See, have I become better? And you can rank yourself 0 to 10, however you want to do it. But here's a nice little elegant definition. Patience is the willingness to await calmly the outworking of natural processes. Realistic expectations are a key to patience, for as our awareness of the complexities of such things as relationships and the process of spiritual growth increases, so does our acceptance of the time they require. Similarly, realistic planning and the willingness to allocate the time to do tasks properly allow us to move through life with unhurried calm. Serenity and composure under stress or in performing a demanding task are components of patience and develop as we uplift ourselves from worry to productive thought and tranquil acceptance. So, that may sound a little idealistic to you at this point, but one of the things I think about when considering the truth of patience, we don't get impatient if we see the world clearly. You know, we've got impatience colored glasses that we often use, where it's from the old way, the asphalt, It's from expectations built on fond hopes, wishes, and dreams that you've had. So we have dreams about a loved one, a relationship, a job, a career, vacations. We have these wishes, hopes, and dreams. And then we experience reality. And if we're impatient with it, it just says that we're sticking with the dream and not accepting what's true and real. And so sometimes I say, get your feet firmly planted on the ground of reality and look at what is required of our thought, of our money, of our time, of our materials and resources to accomplish something. And if you're in a big team, how many man hours, how much money, how much time for development. And I know whenever Jack and I are working on something, very often if you're working on something that's online or on a computer, if you're not really experienced, you will underestimate your time. And think about the people who are late. And I've been there. Believe me, it's like that's part of my asphalt. I'm way better now. Sure took me a long time though. Having, and this may be part of ADD, having an undeveloped sense of time or of projection into the future, which is part of our executive functioning. So if we have an unrealistic expectation, wish, hope, or dream, and we're not in touch with what's here in the practical sense in the real world, we will become frustrated or discouraged or sad or angry or feel like a victim or feel like blaming somebody when all we needed was patience with what's real, with what's just reality in life. So in this little self-evaluation, here are 5 just ordinary little questions for you to ask yourself. Just check in with yourself right now. I devote all my energy to the task at hand rather than shifting my attention to other concerns or future problems. Do you focus down and just do this and be patient with the process, whatever it is that you need to do in order to stay with it and finish it? I have a relaxed, unhurried manner regardless of an apparent urgency. And so people feel senses of urgency all the time. Does it help? Really, does it help? Sometimes it is a motivator when we, oh dear, we need to do this. But once we get the priority, if we continue to be pressed and not patient, then we probably will lose efficiency. Patience helps us keep our minds clear, focused on the task, and figuring out how to do it. Okay, number 3. I don't become impatient with others who do not, to me, appear to be bettering themselves, or doing it the right way, or doing it the way I would do it. How many times have we heard and have you experienced both doing it and having it done to you? Well, let me do that, I can do it better. Or let me show you how you're not doing it right. Or let me take that, you go do something else. Where if we have an encounter with someone who is patient, or we have patience ourselves, we don't interfere and we don't meddle. And we're not a helicopter parent, we're not a know-it-all, and we're more empathetic and sensitive to another person. So I remember watching my dad and my brother, and my dad was a fantastic mechanic on cars, boats, airplanes, engines. And of course my brother was interested in that, but Dad was one of those guys where he said, well, let me show you this is the right way. And so of course, my brother would just stand back and Dad would do it. Dad didn't know. He thought he was helping. He thought he was teaching. But is that the best way to teach? We know that it isn't. So do you catch yourself trying to interfere and do it for somebody else? Or do it better than they do? Or have you had somebody else do it to you? If we have patience and we accurately assess what's required for something, we either do it ourselves with patience, or we give the respectful patience to someone else as they fumble around and figure out how to do it themselves. That's the way we best learn, isn't it? So, if people appear to be doing something that I think could be better, I'm off base. Part of that is the twins of empathy and listening, where we put our own agenda aside and we have the mental agility to be with them with empathy, knowing them accurately, knowing accurately where they are and what they need to learn next. It's like one of the sayings that the Boy Scout troop I was associated with so long ago, I loved what the leaders had as their motto. The boys are going to plan it. The boys are going to do it. And we won't let them fail. Same thing with patience and empathy. We let another person do it. Plan it and do it. If they get in trouble, we're there to help. And we offer and we say, you do it. I know you can do it. And I'm not leaving you. I'm going to be right here. If you need any help, just ask. But I know you can do it. How often do we need to be that way as parents, as teachers and mentors? And how often did we need that when we were learning something or we were a child? Just patience. Patience ends up feeling so respectful and kind. When talking, I listen attentively rather than simply waiting for others to finish. Oh, if you're just waiting for them to finish and then you pop in, it's not really patience, is it? They weren't heard. And number 5, others recognize me as being patient. Being patient in that form is a kind of love. It's very much respect. So do you have a double take in your past where somebody really listened to you? Somebody was very patient with you? I know that if I ask that question and I have a few people hold up their hands saying yes, the answer that I will typically get is, well, it was my grandpa. And how did it make you feel? I felt special. Well, it was my boss. How did that make you feel? I felt respected. I trusted. It was my best friend. How did that make you feel? It made me feel loved. Patience, accepting reality, having your feet on the ground, and being careful that you don't have unrealistic expectations, that you pay attention to the real world, the gift that it is to you. And so if you've had a double take about patience, I'd like to know about it. So you can go to my website and download the handouts. You can also leave me a comment or a question, which I love to hear. You can also do it on my YouTube channel. And you can go to my YouTube channel and my website and get these materials free. I want you to have them. And thank you so very much for tuning in to our evening on patience. I look forward to next week, and next week we'll do the next virtue. And you'll find that out sooner or later. But right now, we're just looking at patience. So thank you. And remember, know yourself, treasure life, and love others. This is Heather Carlile.